Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to meticulously map out the dark and, quite frankly, terrifying verse of the Mewlips. This is a completely fascinating piece of source material because it acts as a sort of anti-adventure. It takes that classic, beloved fantasy trope of seeking treasure and turns it into an absolute nightmare. So pack your bags and grab a sword because we're going to unpack exactly how this grim story is constructed.
So, what waits beyond the Merlock Mountains? If you were a traveler, a treasure hunter, or some brave adventurer, who among you would actually dare to take this journey? This perilous map immediately forces us to wonder what exactly is waiting in the dark for those foolish enough to seek it out.
Section 1. The Unforgiving Geography.
We kick things off with this quote, "Over the Merlock Mountains, a long and weary way." What's really fascinating here is how it anchors us in the grueling, physical reality of the trek. This isn't just some quick jaunt down the road, right? Before we even see a single monster, the environment itself is designed to exhaust you. It's meant to break you down and make the journey incredibly long and incredibly weary.
We can literally map out this grueling journey chronologically. Imagine it. Week 1, you drag yourself over the Merlock Mountains on the weary way. By week 2, you're traveling through the spider shadows along a totally lonely road. Week 3 has you slogging through the marsh of toad until finally you reach the wood of hanging trees. The environment gets progressively more hostile, more isolating, and just intensely unsettling.
And all of that exhausting travel leads right here. The final destination of this geographic route is a moldy valley by a dark pool's borders. The source describes it as completely moonless and sunless. There is no wind, there is no tide. It is a place of absolute suffocating stagnation. You've hiked all the way across the world just to end up in a total sensory void.
Section 2. A gloomy, rotting ecosystem.
Now, every single sensory detail in this text builds this heavy atmosphere of dread. Let's break it down. For flora, you've got weeping willows, gray trees, and gallows weed. The fauna consists of sleeping gore crows, spider shadows, and these grinning gargoyles staring down at you. And the environment itself, it's defined by slime, noisome waters, and a dark pool wet as ink. Literally every single element of this ecosystem represents death, sorrow, and decay.
Consider the highly evocative terminology being used here, specifically gallows weed. The text tells us this is found in the wood of hanging trees. It perfectly combines the imagery of an execution apparatus, the gallows, with invasive, unwanted plant life, a weed. It establishes this chilling atmosphere of doom. The very vegetation here threatens death.
And the animals are no better. Take the gore crows. These are gloomy birds standing beside a rotting river strand. But notice the highly specific behavior the text highlights. They are croaking in their sleep. Pointing this out is absolutely essential because it shows how even the animals here are just deeply wrong. The natural order is completely twisted. The environment is so perpetually gloomy that the birds don't even bother to wake up to make their unsettling noises.
Section 3. Inside the dank cellars.
We finally transition indoors with this quote. "The cellars where the Mewlips sit are deep and dank and cold." I absolutely love how this dramatically shifts our focus and instantly drops the temperature of the narrative. We've gone from wide-open, weary mountain roads and expansive marshes to being entirely trapped underground in a freezing, wet basement. Just think about the miserable conditions in which these creatures hide. It's deep, dank, and cold. They're lit by only a single sickly candle. The walls are completely wet, the ceilings are dripping, and in the background, there's just a softly ringing bell. It is profoundly damp and claustrophobic. This is not some grand fantasy fortress, right? It's a claustrophobic hole in the ground.
And this brings us to an incredible juxtaposition in the source material. We all picture that grand, heroic fantasy that drives the traveler, the creatures counting their gold. That's the lure. That's why we're here. But the pathetic, gritty reality of where this gold is actually kept is a slimy, dripping, sickly lit cellar. The text brilliantly contrasts the traditional allure of seeking treasure with the disgusting reality, really highlighting the terrible trap the traveler has walked right into.
Section 4. Behavior of the Mewlips. The text gives us this wonderfully dreadful description. Their feet upon the floor go softly with a squish, flap, flip. The sensory onomatopoeia here is just fantastic. Imagine standing in the dark, cold slime outside a door and hearing that wet,
soft squish, flap, flip, slowly approaching from the other side. It completely lets the dread of those unseen footsteps resonate with the reader.
We can look at this sequence as an active, terrifying ambush. First, the Mewlips sit and count their gold. Then, they hear a knock from our weary traveler and sidle to the door with that awful, wet, squish, flat, flip sound. They peep out slyly through a crack until finally, their feeling fingers slowly creep out. It's a deliberate, highly predatory process.
And while those fingers are creeping out, what are you, the traveler, doing? Well, the text answers it clearly, as in, the slime you sink. I really want to remind you of the traveler's complete helplessness here. You are literally sinking into the noisome mud right outside their door while the gargoyles stare down at you. You're trapped by the environment itself, just as the monsters inside make their final move.
Section 5. The Traveler's Grim Fate. And here is the chilling climax of the text. And when they've finished, in a sack, your bones they take to keep. So the Mewlips aren't just hoarding gold in those dank cellars. No, they are hoarding the remains of their visitors. All that long, weary travel over the mountains and through the spider shadows ends right here, with your bones stuffed into a sack.
This brilliantly illustrates the ultimate dark punchline of the entire source material. You go to find the Mewlips, and the Mewlips feed. The traveler thought they were the hunter, this grand adventurer seeking out hidden gold at the very edge of the world. But the reality is, they were actually just the prey all along. You're literally hand-delivering a meal to these creatures in their miserable cellar.
So to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. Is the promise of gold ever worth a lonely walk to the Marsh of Toad? This text serves as a stark, unforgiving cautionary tale. It forces us to ask why anyone would endure the weariness, the absolute gloom, and the gallows weed, only to knock on a door in the slime and become prey. It's a masterful construction of dread, and I really hope seeing it mapped out like this helps you appreciate exactly how the trap is sprung. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and keep asking questions about the stories you read.